coders, I'm Allie, and I'm your host for Code Along with Black Girls Code. Have you ever wondered how websites, apps, and games come to life? Behind every button you click, every animation you see, every game you play, there's code making it all work. In this video, we'll dive into JavaScript, one of the most widely used programming languages for building interactive websites. Today, we'll cover essential coding concepts. We'll break it down step by step so that you can start thinking like a programmer. Ready to get started? Let's go. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a video. Now let's get to coding. First things first, what is coding and why should we care about it? Coding is how we communicate with computers, giving them instructions to perform tasks. It powers almost everything in our digital world, from websites to video games to mobile apps, and even the systems that process your card payments. JavaScript is one of the most powerful languages for creating interactive, dynamic web experiences. Things like updating content on a web page, triggering pop-up messages, and making animations come to life. Let's get started learning about JavaScript. You can follow along by opening your web browser and pressing the Control, Shift, and I keys simultaneously if you're on Windows. On Mac, it's Command, Option, and I. A window will open up, usually with a bunch of code. We're interested in the Console tab, so select that at the top. Whenever I write code, you can code along with me by typing it in this console. Don't worry, it will provide feedback if you mess up. If you're ever stuck, just refresh the page and you'll have a clean console again. The first concept we're going to tackle is variables. Think of a variable like a labeled box where you can store information that you might need later. This information can be numbers, words, or other types of data. To declare or create a variable in JavaScript, follow these steps. Start with the keyword let, followed by a space. Choose a descriptive name for your variable, one that represents the data it will store. Let's create a variable called meals per day. The name cannot have spaces or start with a number. It can include letters, numbers, and underscores. Use an equals sign to assign a value to your variable. This variable stores the number of meals I eat in a day, which is 3. End the line with a semicolon. Notice how the words per and day are capitalized. This is called camel case, and it helps make variable names easier to read. See how the word has humps, almost like a camel? It's pretty clever. Besides numbers for data, you can also hold text. In the programming world, we call them strings. So I'll create another variable called favorite meal and set it to chicken sandwich. That's it for variables. Next, let's talk about arrays. Arrays are a type of data that you can save in a variable and use in your code. An array is like a shopping cart that can hold a collection of items. These items can be numbers, strings, or even other arrays. Let's say we want to store the meals that we ate today. Arrays start with a square bracket followed by any data that you want. Each data is separated by commas. Once you have your list, you close it with a closing square bracket. So, I've put in my list, eggs and bacon, chicken sandwich, and steak. If we want to access the data in my array, like let's say the eggs and bacon entry, we would use the variable name, open square bracket, the index, and close the square bracket. The index is the number in the list where the entry is. Arrays in most programming languages start with 0 instead of 1 due to how the languages interact with the computer. So for eggs and bacon, we would use index 0 to find it. Now hold up. I have a variable called favorite meal that has chicken sandwich in it. And in our today's meals list, we have chicken sandwich in there as well. We could replace that with our variable instead because it represents chicken sandwich. We do this in coding to make sure we only have to type the string or data once and avoid mistakes later on. We've learned about arrays. Now let's learn about objects. Objects are similar to arrays in that they hold a bunch of data, but instead of using a number for the index, it can use a string as well. Think of it as a binder that holds related information together. My favorite meal, a chicken sandwich, is made up of different items, but I like it a certain way. So let me make it an object. It looks similar to an array, right? But instead, we use curly brackets, and we give what's called a key for an entry in the object. The data after the colon for the key is called the value. Bread is the key, and brioche is the value. So we have key-value pairs. There's one more data type I didn't talk about, Booleans. They represent either true or false. C has mayo. I want mayo on my chicken sandwich, so I set it to true. How do we use an object? We use it just like an array, but instead of giving a number, we give the key. Let's save our bread type to a variable. Notice that I wrapped the word bread in quotes for the key. That's because we're accessing it like a string. You can also access it with a period and then the key name, like so. Either way works. Now that we've covered different data types in JavaScript, let's move on to functions. A function is like a helper or a recipe. It follows a set of instructions, and whenever you need it, you can call the function to do the work for you. Let's make a function called makeChickenSandwich. Let's break it down. We start off by calling a function using the word function, what's called a keyword, and then we put the function name followed by an open parentheses. Inside the parentheses is the word sandwich. Sandwich is what's called an input to the function. It works like a variable inside our function. We then close out the parentheses and write an open curly bracket. Anything inside the two curly brackets is the instructions for the function. What our function is going to do is create a string with the data from sandwich, which is an object. Remember that chicken sandwich parts object we made earlier? We'll put that as our input. A function can return data from it. In this case, it is returning a string. See the return keyword? It's followed by the data we're sending back. This function will return a string. We can put together multiple strings with a plus sign, like so, which is called concatenation, and use variables in between the strings to make one big long string. We pull values from the sandwich object using dot notation, like the sandwich.bread code you see on screen. We close out the function with an ending curly brace, and that's our function definition done. But how do we use it? To call a function, we type its name, followed by parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we pass in the input we want to use, or in our case, the object chicken sandwich parts. The function will return that string to our variable new sandwich to store it there. Whew, that's a lot of info. Let's recap. A function is like a reusable set of instructions. We define it using the function keyword. It can take inputs and return data. We call a function by typing its name and passing in the necessary inputs. Functions are done. Anyone else craving a chicken sandwich now? Okay, sorry, don't get distracted. On to the next topic, if statements. An if statement is like a decision maker in your code. It lets your program check if something is true, and if it is, then it'll do something. If it's false, it'll do something else instead. Going with our chicken sandwich example, I want to go with, if chicken type is breaded, the bread should be brioche. Here's how to write that out in code. We start with the word if, followed by parentheses. We then write code that will either equal true or false. To do so, we use our chicken sandwich parts object's chicken type key and compare it to the string breaded with 3 equal signs. Close out the parentheses and use a starting curly bracket to show that we're going to put information inside the if. Inside our if statement, we use Console.log, a built-in JavaScript function that prints messages to the console. This is useful for checking values, understanding how our code runs, and debugging errors. If statements can be followed by an else statement or another if statement if the logic is more complex. Here's a more complex example. We have an if, followed by an else if, and then an else. We went over our if section of code, but the else if is comparing if chicken type is not breaded and the bread is brioche, then execute the following code. Print the string, chicken isn't breaded, but using brioche buns. And else is code that will happen if none of the other ifs are true. So, in that else, we execute the code to print chicken is not breaded and is not using brioche. You can put as many else ifs as you like. Just make sure you're using a comparison. There are different types of signs to compare your statements. 3 equals sign, an exclamation point followed by 2 equals sign, 2 ampersands, 2 pipes or vertical lines, and greater than or less than using the left and right angled brackets. Whew, that's a lot of if statements. The next part we're going to talk about is loops, specifically the for loop. A for loop is like giving the computer a set of instructions to repeat something multiple times without you having to write it over and over. Instead of saying, do this 10 times, you tell the computer to keep going until it reaches a certain number. It's like setting a timer to brush your teeth for a certain amount of time instead of trying to guess how long to do it. The timer counts down until it gets to 0. Let's try looping through our today's meals variable and print out each meal to the console. See the code on screen. Do you notice a pattern here? Like with the function and if statements? We have a word for, parentheses, then what we're looping, closing parentheses, and curly brackets to indicate what is being looped. For the content inside the parentheses, we have 3 sections separated by semicolons. The first part is declaring our counter. See the word let here? It's making a variable here, and we're calling it I, short for index. We'll set it to 0 because we're going to go through our today's meals array, and remember, indices in arrays always start at 0. Next, we set the condition for how we continue looping. As long as I is less than today's meals array length, we'll loop. Length is a key for all JavaScript arrays that tells us how many values are in the array. Finally, we set what happens at the end of the loop to move the counter. ++ is shorthand for adding 1 to our I variable. In the section where we tell the for loop what to do, we can use that I variable to be the index of our array. Every time we loop, that I variable will increase by 1, so it'll go through our entire array. Lastly, we have comments. Comments help us organize our code, debug our code, and explain things to ourselves and other coders. A comment is started with 2 forward slashes, and any text after it is not run by the computer. Here is a comment. Let's say I want to test just a certain portion of my code. Then I can use comments to comment out the other code to focus on just that section. Let's remove the for loop from running for a moment by commenting it out. Now the for loop won't print out those messages in the console. It's annoying to type out that many slashes though, right? We can use a multi-line comment with /** and close it out with */. Anything between the asterisks is now a comment. Now it's easier to put the code back because there's less text to delete. And that's a wrap for learning how to program in JavaScript. Awesome job today, coders. In this episode, we learned variables, arrays, objects, functions, if statements, loops, and comments. That's just what you need to get started coding. Thanks for joining me today, and see you next time here in the Code Zone.